All right, so put your reply in the chat there and then share it with us what you're. Are we replying? Because I don't see any of the other. Ah, there we go. I don't know why it wasn't showing me. Oh, I'm interested in writing my life story. Brianna, ooh, wants to do an autobiography. You can reply to other students. Things they're interested in here, we'll let you have the opportunity to reply to them as well. Hey, Randy.
Hey, you still on your Zoom?
Yeah, but
there's a Google problem with Google Drive.
Okay.
It's a nationwide problem, it looks like. So as soon as I hear something, I'll let you know. But
all right.
5 minutes before you sent that, I got an alert from them. So,
Okay. Not a problem. Thank you. Just excited. Nina's just excited to write. I like that enthusiasm about writing is to Nathan. I like Nathaniel. I like that you're wanting to tell us about what summer's been this year. My summer was pretty boring because I didn't get to do anything. I was trapped inside. Okay. I want to write a story about being able to take my mask off and breathe without having a mask on my face. Okay. So yesterday we watched the true story of the Three Little Pigs. I have a different fairy tale today that we're going to share and we're going to watch, and we're going to be able to see how do these two compare. What does the author do to try to compare these two particular fairy tales? Okay, and not necessarily we're comparing the fairy tales to see what they're like, but what they do with their writing of them. How does one compare with the other? Okay, in regards to who's telling the story, do they have the same person telling the story? Okay, so here we go. We're going to listen to this one. And it's written by John Sieska, who's the same person who wrote True Story of the Three Little Pigs. Okay.
The Frog Prince continued. Story by John Sieska, paintings by Steve Johnson. The princess kissed the frog, he turned into a prince, and they lived happily ever after. Well, let's just say they lived sort of happily for a long time. Okay, so they weren't so happy. In fact, they were miserable.
Stop sticking your tongue out like that,
nagged the princess. How come you never want to go down to the pond anymore? Whined the prince. The prince and princess were so unhappy, they didn't know what to do.
I would prefer that you not hop around on the furniture,
said the princess.
And it might be nice if you got out of the castle once in a while to slay a dragon or giant or whatever.
The prince didn't feel like going out and slaying anything. He just felt like running away. But then he reread his book, and it said it right there at the end of his story. They lived happily ever after. The end. So he stayed in the castle and drove the princess crazy. Then, one day, the princess threw a perfectly awful fit.
First, you keep me awake all night with your horrible croaking snore. Now, I find a lily pad in your pocket. I can't believe I actually kissed your slimy frog lips. Sometimes I think we would both be better off if you were still a frog.
That's when the idea hit him. The prince thought, still a frog. Yes, that's it! And he ran off into the forest, looking for a witch who could turn him back into a frog. The prince hadn't gone far when he ran into just the person he was looking for. Miss Witch! Miss Witch! Excuse me, Miss Witch. I wonder if you could help me. Say, you're not looking for a princess to kiss, are you? Asked the witch. Oh no, I've already been kissed. I'm the frog prince. Actually, I was hoping you could turn me back into a frog. Are you sure you're not looking for a beautiful sleeping princess to kiss and wake up? No, I'm the frog prince. That's funny. You don't look like a frog. Well, no matter. If you're a prince, you're a prince. And I'll have to cast a nasty spell on you. I can't have any princes waking up Sleeping Beauty before the 100 years are up. The prince didn't stick around to see which nasty spell the witch had in mind. He ran deeper into the forest until he came to a tiny cottage where he saw another lady who might help him. Miss Witch, excuse me, Miss Witch. I wonder if you could help me. I'm a prince and...
What did you say? Prince?
croaked the witch. No, I mean, yes. No, I'm not the prince looking for Sleeping Beauty, but yes, I'm the frog prince, and I'm looking for a member of your profession who can turn me back into a frog so I can live happily ever after.
Frog Prince, you say? That's funny. I thought frogs were little green guys with webbed feet. Well, no matter. If you're a prince, you're a prince. And I can't have any prince Snow White. Here, eat the rest of this apple.
Okay, we're gonna pause there for a second. Let's go back to your discussion. All right, so in your discussion, I want you to answer this particular question. What do you notice about the story so far? Okay, so I want you to go ahead and answer that one. What do you notice about the story so far? What's something that you noticed? So go ahead and type in your response to that in the discussion. Okay. We're going to go ahead and go on here. If you have a post that you want to put in that discussion about that question, go ahead and do that. But we're going to finish on here to see what happens from this point forward in the story.
The prince, who knew his fairy tales and knew a poisoned apple when he saw one, didn't even stay to say, no thank you. He turned and ran deeper into the forest. Soon he came to a strange-looking house with a witch outside. Ahem. Miss Witch, excuse me, Miss Witch. I wonder if you could help me. I'm the frog. If you're a frog, I'm the king of France, said the witch. No, I'm not a frog. I'm the frog prince. But I need a witch to turn me back into a frog so I can live happily ever after. Can you do it? Said the prince in one long breath. The witch eyed the prince and licked her rather plump lips. Why, of course, dearie. Come right in. Maybe I can fit you in for lunch. The prince stopped on the slightly gummy steps. Something about this house seemed very familiar. He broke off a corner of the windowsill and tasted it. Gingerbread. I hope you don't mind me asking, Miss Witch, but do you happen to know any children by the name of Hansel and Gretel? Why, yes, Prince darling, I do. I'm expecting them for dinner. The prince, who, as we said before, knew his fairy tales, ran as fast as he could deeper into the forest. Soon, he was completely lost. He saw someone standing next to a tree. The prince walked up to her, hoping she wasn't a witch, for he quite had his fill of witches. Madam, I'm the Frog Prince. Could you help me?
Gosh, do you need it?
Said the fairy godmother.
You are the worst looking frog I've ever seen.
I am not a frog. I am the Frog Prince, said the prince, getting a little annoyed. And I need someone to turn me back into a frog so I can live happily ever after.
Well, I'm on my way to see a girl in the village about going to a ball. But I suppose I can give it a try. I've never done frogs before, you know.
And with that, the fairy godmother waved her magic wand and turned the prince into a beautiful carriage. The prince couldn't believe his rotten luck. The sun went down, the forest got spookier, and the prince became more and more frightened. Oh, what an idiot I've been! I could be sitting at home with the princess, living happily ever after. But instead, I'm stuck here in the middle of this stupid forest, turned into a stupid carriage. Now I'll probably just rot and fall apart and live unhappily ever after. The prince thought these terrible, frightening kinds of thoughts, and a few worse, too awful to tell, until far away in the village, the clock struck midnight. The carriage instantly turned back into his former prince self and ran by the light of the moon until he was safe inside his own castle.
Where have you been? I've been worried sick. You're 7 hours late, your dinner is cold, your clothes are a mess.
The prince looked at the princess, who had believed him when no one else in the world had. The princess who actually kissed his slimy frog lips. The princess who loved him. The prince kissed the princess, they both turned into frogs, and they hopped off happily ever after. The end.
All right, so that is The Frog Prince continued. Okay, so we've read The True Story of the Three Little Pigs, and we've read The Frog Prince Continued. They're both written by the author John Sieska. And so we've had a chance to do that. And so with this one, let's go to our chat that we have and we've had started here, our little discussion board. I want you to type in the discussion for us. Now, a response to how are the two stories similar? How was the true story of the Three Little Pigs similar to the the Frog Prince Continued? Was there anything that they had in common? Okay, so type that in your reply there for me. Is there anything that you noticed that the two stories have in common? Okay, so go ahead, unmute here. If you want to share with us too out loud, raise your hand and we'll give you the opportunity to share with us also other than in the chat. Rion, did you notice anything that they have in common?
Yes.
What?
So they're both written by the same author, and they are like kind of telling the true story of both of them.
Ah, so they're both telling us the true story. They're telling us that the other story was a made-up story, wasn't the real story. Okay. Bella, did you have your hand up wanting to share something there? No? Did they both have the same person telling the story? Because I see here, Jamira says they were both told by different people than before. Excellent, yes. They're both written by the same author, Asher says. Okay, they're both telling the true story about both of the fairy tales. I like that. Okay, that is great. I love that. Okay, so both of these, do we know, are either one of them really the true story?
Probably.
Probably, but from whose point of view? So when we have things that go on in class, and we were to ask all of you about how your day went at school, would every single one of you have the same answer?
No.
Why would everybody's answer be different?
Because days can go different and
Give us your hand up and we'll call on you if you got your hand up here that we'll see. Matthew.
days some stories can go different because who knows at the end of any story it could go completely wrong.
Okay. Can somebody else tell me maybe why, if we ask different people, if I asked Kobe about her day at school and we asked her about math class, when we did math at school, and we asked Asher, would we get the same answer how math class went from both of them?
No.
Kobe, would you think your answer would be the same as Asher's? About math, how math went today at school.
Oh, yes, I did think it would be the same.
You think it'd be the same? Asher, do you think your answer would be the same as Kobe's? Why
No.
not?
Because not everybody has, not everybody can have the exact same, answers about how math was.
So when we were reading the story, The Three Little Pigs, the pig's point of view of what was going on was different than the wolf's. So if we were all sitting in the same math class, would everybody have the same view as to how math went that day? That we went to the end of math and I said, "Oh, that was an awesome lesson."
No.
Would everybody think it was awesome? Maybe.
No.
Why not? Because I thought it was awesome. I taught it. It was great. I could see things going on. Why
Because
might not be the same?
because people have different type of vibes and
So it's point of view, right? So that's what this was trying to say is we can rewrite stories, any story. We could go to the library and have Miss Eisenhower pick us out a story, but we could retell it from another character and it would be a completely new story.
About to die.
Okay, and so yesterday we did that in our Google Drive. So let's go ahead and with this assignment that we were doing this discussion, we're going to leave that discussion. Okay, we'll go ahead and leave that discussion and go back to our student page where our homework is, where our school classwork is.
yeah.
Actually, no, not there. I'm sorry. We're going to go to your Google Drive.
Try. What's that?
Yep. So in here, well, remember, we've got Google Drive right here. We're going to click on that, and you should have in the Google Drive your ideas for retelling fairy tales, that journal writing we did yesterday.
It doesn't say anything for mine.
Okay. You should be able to find that in there. And we're going to give you time, a 5-minute writing time here today, to journal some more in that activity about what some other ideas for retelling fairy tales. Because now we've had 2 fairy tales that we've shared that have had 2 different stories that have retold. What would you do with your writing here today? Okay. What did you write about yesterday? We started listing ideas for retelling fairy tales. What other ideas does the Frog Prince continue to give you? Okay, and we're going to give you 5 minutes to journal about that today. Okay, and that should be in your Google Drive. You titled it yesterday, pick that one out, and you can continue typing on that. I'm going to put the clock up here.
It's not on there.
Okay. And I'll put the timer up. We'll give you 5 minutes. And then when the 5 minutes is up, we'll do our exit ticket for writing today.
Coffee for your head. Get your
Kobe?
I am on Google Drive
Huh?
on Canvas,
Okay.
but I
Can't
don't.
find it? Go ahead and share your screen with me. I'm going to stop sharing mine and you share yours with me and we'll see it.
It says you disabled it. The share.
Oh, yep. I got to allow you to do that. Okay, go ahead and share it with me. We'll get there. Little things we're figuring out. Click on your untitled document.
Hmm?
So you see copy my first day jitters. Go all the way down to untitled document. Click on that one. Open it. There we go.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, boys and girls, let's come on back to our classroom here. Now we're going to do our exit ticket for writing. Okay, and so if we go back into our students, we have September 14th through the 18th. We're going to click on that. We're going to go to this and we're doing Being a Writer 1.2. That's the one that we're going to click on. And here is our exit ticket for today. Okay, and so you're going to type your name in and then what did you write about today? Was it easier? Was it hard or easy to start writing? Why? What helped you focus on your writing today? And then you're going to submit it when you're done. Okay, and we're going to give everybody 10 minutes to do this. If you finished before the 10 minutes is up, you have time to get a drink or a break and come back and join us. Okay, I'm going to leave the student view so that I can see everybody's responses here to the Being a Writer. Okay. If you need help, I'm here. You can raise your hand.
all the steps. Maybe you got too much heat out down here.
Okay, you've got 2 minutes still here for our writing. It's not time for lunch and recess yet. We're going to come back. We've got a few minutes that we're giving you some time. So if I'm finished, I can take a quick break. We're giving everybody some time to okay. And I'm in the process of making all right, so that's our time. Let's come back here together. We have another story that I'm going to share with you that's entitled Mrs. Katz and Tush that we're going to talk about today before we get started, because this is building community. Okay, so let's make sure, let's stop share, let's come on back. So if you're there, go ahead and share your screen with us because we're back together now. If you're with us, give me, oh, if you're with me, put your the first finger on your right hand on your nose. Asher's got his thumb. Thumbing at me there, Asher. There we go. I see you. All right. So let's go ahead. And now that we're with me, we're going to watch this little story about community because we've talked about community. Yesterday, we said that's what we're working on this week. And so let's watch this one. This is another little story this one's by Patricia Polacco and it's called Mrs. Katz and Tush. And so we're going to watch this particular one and then talk about community because this one's going to build in
Hello
some
and
community
welcome back
things.
to another edition of Sankofa Read Aloud. Today's story is titled Mrs. Katz and Tush, written by Patricia Polacco. I hope that you enjoy this amazing story. Larnell didn't know Mrs. Katz was very well, but almost every other day his mother stopped in to see her after work. Since her husband died, she's so alone, his mother had told him. Mrs. Katz held tight to his mother's hand, and the day they looked at an old photo album. That's my husband, Myron. said Mrs. Katz. He came from Poland like me, a long time ago. We had such a life, such a life. Then her voice broke. We had no children, and I'll be all alone for Hanukkah and Passover. Then she cried. The next day, Larnell stopped in to see her himself. I've been thinking, he said. A cat had some kittens in the basement of our building. We found someone to take them all except this one. She's the runt. Nobody wants her because she is so ugly. She doesn't even have a tail. Ugly, you say? Mrs. Katz said. My Myron was ugly too when he was little, but he grew up to be such a person. Mrs. Katz looked at the little kitten, scrawny little boobala, so small, no tail, she said, as she examined the kitten closely. I don't know, she said doubtfully. Then she saw the look on Larnell's face. Larnell, I'll take her, she announced, but only if you'll come and help me with her. I've never had a cat before. Larnell promised. A good Yiddish name I'll give her, said Mrs. Katz. Let's see. She has no tail. All you see is her tush. That's it? We'll call her Tush. Little Tush grew healthy and strong. Mrs. Katz cooked for her, brushed her, knitted toys for her, and even read to her. Such a person, she'd say as she watched Tush play. Mrs. Katz was in love. Larnell kept his promise. He visited Mrs. Katz and Tush every day after school. There was always a fresh-baked kugel and a tall glass of milk waiting for him. But as much as he grew to love Tush, he also loved to listen to Mrs. Katz talk about the old country and the way times used to be. I come from Warsaw, that's in Poland. You know, I came here to work sewing dresses in the garment district for my cousin Moshe. I didn't speak one word of English. Then, how did you talk to people? Said Larnell. I didn't, she answered. A lot. I cried in those days until I met Myron. He asked me to marry him after he tasted my kugel. I believe that, Larnell said as he ate some. Myron and I used to vacation in Catskills. A borscht resort, you know, a place for Jews to stay. You mean Jews can't stay anywhere they wanted to? Larnell asked. Mrs. Katz didn't answer. Instead, she went to a trunk and pulled out some old clothes. My grandma told me about places she couldn't stay either, Larnell said softly. Larnell, your people and my people are alike, you know. Trouble, we've seen. Happiness, too. Great strength we've had. You and I are alike, so much alike. Now, where was I? Oh, yes, the Catskills. We used to dress every Sunday and have a costume ball, said Mrs. Katz. Then she put a record on the record player. It was old and scratched. You hear that, Larnell, she said? That is what we used to dance to. It's a dance from my homeland. Here, I'll show you. They whirled around the room and laughed and giggled. As the weeks passed, Larnell spent more and more time with Mrs. Katz. Since you are almost family to me, Larnell, she said one day, I want you should come with me to say Kiddush for my Myron. I know you're not Jewish, but Myron would have liked you. You're such a person, Larnell. At the cemetery, she read from her book. Then she asked Larnell to put a small rock on top of Mr. Katz's headstone. We do this to remember, she said softly. Shalom, my Myron, she murmured and wiped tears from her face. On the way home, she announced, Kugel, such a kugel. I baked for you today, Larnell. Hurry, Tush will be worried for us, she said as they walked. When they got home, they called and called for Tush, but she didn't come. They looked everywhere for her. Suddenly, Mrs. Katz gasped. The window to the fire escape was open. Oh no, she cried. I forgot to shut the window before I left. Poor Boobala. She has never been outside. We'll find her, Larnell tried to reassure her. She has been acting strange lately, Mrs. Katz said through her tears. She's been trying to get out, but I was afraid that she would get hit by a car. I'll find her, Mrs. Katz, Larnell said. I won't let you down. It was getting dark. First, Mrs. Katz and Larnell looked around their building. Then they went everywhere in the neighborhood. They left notes on doors, telephone poles, and fences. They asked everyone who lived nearby, but no one had seen little Tush. That night, it stormed. There was rain, awful, awful rain. Mrs. Katz hardly slept as she thought about her little Katzle. Such a person, she whispered. Larnell worried most of the night, too. What will Mrs. Katz do, he thought. Please, God, bring the little cat back to her, he said softly into his pillow. A loud knock on the front door awoke Mrs. Katz. It was Larnell's father and two neighbors. Is this yours? They asked. My boobale, little Katzle, Mrs. Katz explained. We found her in the back alley, soaking wet and hungry. Mr. Moore said. Thank you, Mrs. Katz said, as she took Tush in her arms. After a while, Tush no longer had the least desire to go outside again, but she slept a lot, even when Larnell came over to play with her. It was at my aunt Havilah's Passover Seder that I met Myron. Did you know that? Mrs. Katz asked as she looked at Larnell. What good times they were, with lots and lots of family. Now, it's just me, she said softly. Could I have Passover dinner with you? Asked Larnell. I thought you would never ask, she exclaimed as she hugged him close. Such a Seder I'll prepare for you. Passover is a time for good food, Mrs. Katz shouted as they edged their way through the crowd in the deli. Like your people, my people were slaves too. They lived in a country where they didn't want to be. They wanted freedom so much that they prayed to God to help them. So he sent an angel that brought death and sadness to the houses of our captors. But the angel did not visit the houses of my people. How did the angel know where the Jews lived? Larnell asked. They marked the doors. Then the angel passed over. Passed over, Larnell? That's what we call the time of celebration, Passover. So Larnell, we have a big feast to celebrate, but we also remember those who had to suffer so we could be free. Mrs. Katz said, part of the dinner is sad and part of it is happy. As Larnell helped get out the linens and china, Mrs. Katz said, you see this tablecloth? This was our wedding chuppah, our canopy. For all these years, we have used it for holy days and celebrations. How come you have so many different dishes? Larnell asked. Because some Jews don't eat dairy and meat off the same dishes, she answered. When we sat down to the Seder together, Mrs. Katz lit 2 candles and waved her hands over them. She read from her book, said prayers, then smiled and said, let the feast begin. They drank red wine and water. They ate bitter herbs, lamb, and chicken. They also had gelfit, fish, and spicy chopped apples with potato pancakes. This bread looks like a soda cracker, Larnell exclaimed. We call it matzah, dear. We eat it at Passover. It's flat because there's no yeast in it, so it doesn't rise. Larnell, I have hidden one piece of matzah here in the apartment. If you can find it, I have a surprise for you. The surprise was a hand-knit sweater that she had made just for him. The next day, Mrs. Katz yelled out her back window to Larnell's apartment. Come quick already! Something wonderful! Larnell and his mom and dad rushed to her door. The angel of death passed over, but the angel of life didn't. Mazel tov! Tush! 4 babies. At last, I am a booby. As the years passed, Mrs. Katz, Tush, and her descendants became part of Larnell's family. There were graduations, weddings, new babies, and finally, a Kaddish. Larnell stood in front of the headstone. He read from her book. He placed a small rock on top of her headstone. Then he, his wife, and their children read the inscription together. Mrs. Katz, our booby, such a person.
All right. So that was Mrs. Katz and Tush kind of talking about community. So I'm going to put this in the chat. This link will give a few seconds here to get there. I'm going to explain it to everybody what we're going to do. So let me copy this, copy it, put it in the chat, paste. Now go ahead and you can click on that and it's going to open up a Google document for everybody. Okay, and so it should open it up to where everybody's going to see this one and you're going to be able to type in it at the same time. Okay, and let me do this. All right, so we have a question on this first document when you open it up. Okay, and everybody's going to be able to type at the same time. I've made a box here that you're going to be able to type into your answer. So nobody's going to be typing at the same time in the same place. We all have our own little space to type into. Okay, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to change the sizing, make it a little bit smaller. Now, so the question is, here in this room, we are members of a classroom community. What does community mean? What does that mean? What is a community? Okay, Bella. It doesn't get, okay, sharing rights. Hold on. Let's do this. That's the problem, isn't it, Bella? It wasn't giving you the opportunity to edit. So I need to change that to editor. There we go. Now, Bella, can you type? Should give us, because everybody's starting to pop up in here now. Permissions updated. There we go. So your number is on there. You've got your number. You're going to type your answer to that question in the box that has your number. Okay? Nina.
I sent a request because it won't let me get in.
Okay, go ahead and try it again, Nina, because I've given access to everybody.
How do we do that? Oh, it worked.
All right, good. There we go. So go ahead and type your response. We should see everybody's as you're typing it in there. Okay, I'm deleting some of these. As you're typing, you should start seeing all of your classmates' answers to that. What is a community? What do you think is a community? I'm deleting a lot of these. All right, here we go. So there we go. Now we got people typing. It's a little easier today with your own box, isn't it? I think so. We'll have to do this from now on, giving everybody their own box when we do a group one like this. I think it works a little easier. I know it'd be easier and faster. We're typing, it's a little bit, takes a little bit longer because of us not being familiar with the keyboard, but that's something that just trying to work a way to where we can see everybody's answers. And so now you can see other people's responses. I like that. Breon says, a community is a large group of people working and doing stuff together. I like that. Okay. Asher says it's a group of people working together. That sounds a lot like Breon's. Okay. Jamira says, I think a classroom community is a group of people who are nice to each other and work together. I like that. There's some commonality in those answers. Okay. Oh, Bella says community, a group of people who work together. Love those. Okay. Now, have this, we're going to also share here. So if you haven't finished your answer, it's okay. Okay. We're going to go on to the next slide here. Okay. And this is the next question, a chance for you to respond. Okay. What is something you can do to make a classmate feel welcome and included? What's something you could do within our community that can make another person in our class feel welcome and included in our classroom, in our community? Awesome. You can be nice to them, say hi, hello. We can help them. You can welcome them to the class if they are new, or you can welcome them in the morning. I love that, Jamira. The other day, when we saw that video yesterday morning, wasn't some people just being nice just by, if they were ready to trip over something, they stopped them and helped them, or if something was in their way, they moved it for them? Could it be just as simple as opening a door sometimes? Yeah, holding the door for them, carrying their things for them. If they drop something, helping them pick it up. Okay, I love these ideas. Okay, if you haven't finished yours, that's okay. This was just an idea, a page for us to share some ideas out, kind of like a think, pair, share in class, but we don't have a partner to partner with, so this is a class think, pair, share at the same time. Okay, what I'm going to share with you now is what your assignment's going to be for when we break here to go to lunch and have your independent reading time. So you have a little bit of independent reading time here today. You might do it now, you might do it later, but if we go to your student assignments, this one says IR response, that's independent reading response. If you click on that, you're going to have your independent reading response, what you're going to do for that today. And that's your reading assignment for your independent reading. So if we go to it, here it is, September 14th through 18th. IR means independent reading response, 9:15. Oh, I got to publish it. I am so sorry. Let me go back. I need to go to that module and publish that module that the IR is in, and then you'll be able to do it. Okay? I need to do that. Bang. There we go. And then there's your independent response. You should be able to now. It's going to be a discussion today where you get to post a response about what you read today. Okay, so we'll click on it. We'll go to IR response 915. Would you recommend this text to someone else? If so, who and why? So your book you're reading today. Who would I, it's an assignment, you're going to return it in to me, you're going to submit it. Who would I, if I like this book, would I recommend it? Yes or no? Why or why not? That's what you're going to tell me today. Okay, so when you do your independent reading today, you then respond to me and turn that in as your little assignment for your personal reading. Okay, I'm going to stop screen share. I'm going to come back. We're going to unmute everybody here. Sean.
It won't let me type.
Okay, well, you want to click submit assignment, and then it will, once you click that blue button, submit assignment, it will then give you a box to type your answer in, okay?
I'm tired. Jacob.
At the bottom, you'll click submit assignment. You'll click turn it in. Jacob.
Hi.
Can you be quiet?
It didn't give me the link.
Okay, it's in your assignments. It's in the student.
Chat.
Click on 9/14, September 14th, and then you click IR, independent reading response. Okay? Any other questions from anybody? All right, so then you have till 1 o'clock. Okay, make sure you get something to eat. Don't starve. Okay? Be glad to see all of you at 1.
Bye.
All right,
I got a question.
see y'all later.
Never mind. When are we gonna end it?